Welcome to the KY Normal Conference. This is going to be a presentation on Solventless 101, everything from washing to pressing, cold cures, jams, all the consistencies you can get from it. So first things first, strains, the most important thing we have when it comes to genetics and choosing what we're going to use to wash. A lot of the times you're going to want to go with more indica dominant strains. They produce larger heads, usually tend to wash better, thinner neck and cuticles. Sativa strains tend not to wash. They don't produce large resinous glands. A lot more long, skinny trichomes that are skinny necks that tend to break off into the wash. And so you'll kind of see right here, I got a laser pointer. So that's a long stalk. That's not good. That's going to just break off in your wash, going to cause contamination. You're trying to go for the most pure product you can. So at the end of the day, if there's something in there that's not allowing that to be pure, it's not good for your wash. That right there is a very ideal trichome. Even that will do right there is pretty good, but you see how this kind of has a bigger head. That's a smaller head. So this would be like, this right here would be your 45U most likely. So your food grade stuff you tend to just throw towards edibles, or tinctures, or salves and topicals and such. That right there, you see that it has like a little abscission point. That's a good root. That's what you're trying to pop off. So when you have something smaller, less chance of contamination of the stock breaking off, it usually tends to break off into the wash a lot better. Sometimes you'll look at weed and you'll notice it's really frosty and you're like, dang, this is gonna be a great washer. It's not really true. Sometimes weed looks really frosty and again, it's just long stalks and that's not gonna aid you. So don't always judge it by looking at the plant and being like, oh, this looks like it's frosty, it's gonna wash. Usually you gotta get down with the scope, look at it, check it out, and again, you're just kind of looking for stuff like that. Oop. That. So the first step to anything that comes to washing is bucking and prepping your material. You're going to, there's two ways of doing this. You can buck in your room, so that means instead of taking it down, bringing it out, doing all this stuff, you're just gonna cut each cola in the room while you're at it. You're going to, and I'll get in the next slide, but you're gonna break it down and then you're just gonna buck straight into the bucket in the room. Second way, it is more ideal when you're using large batch, like when you have a large, like the consumer grade. You're gonna be cutting it down, putting it on hanging rack, take it to the coldest room possible. 50, 60, but the coldest you can get it, the better, because it keeps the plant in a more thinking it's like alive and frozen in the room and it doesn't wilt up on you, which tends to lead to greasing up like in the bag and it will get all rock hard and stuff when you're trying to take it out, and you want it to be as loose as possible when putting it in the wash so you're not crushing trichome heads. So we have prepping. So as you can see on the right hand side over here, this is a plant after it was just cut down. So it's still got all its fan leaves, sugar leaves, all that type of stuff. You can kind of see right here, that's the plant dying on itself. So when it starts doing that, it makes it crispy. And so when you're doing that and you're washing, there's a chance of you breaking and crunching up those leaves and that ending up in your final product. It's not very good. And again, you're trying to make a pure, ultra clean product. And when you have little pieces of brown, it ends up staying in the bag, but it just changes the colors and terpenes and all the things and textures that you get in your final product. You are trying to go for something like this. This is the exact same plant, same thing. You can kind of see I took all those major fan leaves off. I'm going to kind of snip the tips of all the sugar leaves. That's where a lot of it can, like I said, little dead bits of the plant have. And so then snip those all off. And what you're going to do is you're going to try to, once it's all cleaned, you're going to break it into quarter to dime size bits. That allows for surface area to be reached, because like if you have a big dense ball of plant, you're not going to get all the trichomes that are inside hidden in the middle of it. So you're trying to make it as much surface area as possible. So you're going to break these down quarter bits, little individual. Like you'll see also like if you ever do it, there's a plant and then it has each little, like, I think it's called a stamen, but like it's a little thing that's popping out showing you like, oh, I'm a small little nug, oh, I'm a small little, and they're all just built on each other. So once you get good, you'll see that, you'll be able to just clip those individual pieces. you're trying to fill the bags, 700 to 1,000 grams. That's again, you don't want greasiness, or like your bag's greasing up and getting hot, because then it starts turning into like this big rock when you put it in the freezer, and that's not good for your end product. You want to store this for 24 to 48 hours. You can honestly leave it in there as long as you want. It will stay good and frozen for a few months. At a point, it does start degrading, but you at least need to give it 24 to 48 hours to harden up and freeze as it should. And then, like it says, once frozen material is ready, you're good to wash. So this is for the cold room. When you wash hash, has to be in a cold room. It allows the whole process of hash is ice water. So you're trying to keep everything cold as possible. So working in a cold room keeps you producing less ice. You can even at a point, if you're at 32 degrees, not even have to use ice, which ice is gonna cause more, like I said, with the crunchies, or like the dead parts of the leaves, it's gonna cause that breakup. So less ice causes less beating up of the material. And so it also helps when you're collecting your hash. Sometimes when you have a greasy strain, like you'll have tacky and greasy. Tacky is usually what you kind of want, not too tacky. But when you have a greasy strain, you'll pull your wash bags up and you'll just be left with this greasy residue, and it's hard to clean up, it's a pain in the butt. And so then you wanna always clean your bags after every wash, especially when you're dealing with greasy strains, because once it starts greasing up, you'll always be left with more grease just starting to add and add and add. And again, not beneficial. Humidity, it's not very important in your washroom. You're dealing with water everywhere, so your humidity is always gonna be out the roof. And so pretty much only area you need to worry about that is in your freeze dryer area, because when opening the freeze dryer, that's at negative 19 degrees to like 0 degrees. And so the condensation, when pulled out, ends up like re-wetting the hash. So you're gonna want to have your humidity as low as possible, because when you pull it out, it kind of aids in that, not allowing it to flash condensate on it. And so, for wash equipment, so you're going to need 4 different brutes. You're gonna have your washing brute, the one you're paddling in, doing all your stuff, like using a paddle. All you're doing is acting like you're in a canoe, just for hours all day. One for draining, so you're gonna have a drain vessel. It says down here, consider stainless steel. It's like a little spigot you're gonna put on the bottom of your vessel to allow it to drain. This is gonna be at a higher elevation, so it's all gonna just go down into the collection vessel. And so you're gonna drain all your water off after letting it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. All plant material rises to the top, all trichomes drop to the bottom. One for collecting and scooping your tray, or scooping hash onto trays. So that's gonna be a bag that you're gonna take. You're gonna wash all, you're gonna drain it off, pull these big bags up. You're gonna take it to another vessel and you're gonna stretch it down, because all the hash will end up in a patty in these bags. So you stretch it down, it allows you to go in with a scoop, pull it out, scoop it on your trays. And again, this is just my always thought, you wanna always have a thing like an ice bucket full of just ice water for cleaning bags, because the more you keep it clean, even if it greases up a little bit, you can flick it off, rub it off, you can get it off, but you gotta keep the bags kind of wet and clean until the end of the process. Freeze dryer. Freeze dryer is the industry standard of drying your hash. It allows you to get it done within 12 to 15 hours to 16 hours. Air drying is an optional way to do it. It's not very commercially viable. There's a chance for molds, bacteria, and all these things to grow. If not in the right, you have to have 30% humidity, proper temperatures in your room so you don't ruin the hash just from terpene perspectives. And so most people don't air dry. People that do, it's considered like an artisanal craft. But so most people, industry standard, use a freeze dryer. The freeze dryer comes with trays. That's what you scoop your hash onto. You're gonna make it as thin as possible so you can, get as much surface area for the hash to dry evenly. Deli spoon is just it's like a big kitchen spoon, stainless steel, That's what you're using to plop the hash onto the tray. You got a guess? You got a guess? Workstation setup. So like I said, your washing vessel is always going to be higher than the vessel you're draining into. So like in a lot of the labs I worked at, we use a scissor lift table. That's just a hydraulic pump table. Usually it's actually with your foot. It will raise the table up and raise it down so you can have it at body level to wash in, stand it up to drain. Alternatives, you can just use a stainless steel table. It's just got to be careful. I've broken more tables than I know what to do with. Just sitting, like, because you're sitting there, you're agitating all day long. Tables, legs start getting bent, and then someday you'll have a wash vessel fall on you, and that's not fun. You're going to need a spray hose, and that is for filling vessel, but mainly for cleaning the hash. When you clean the hash, you're supposed to spray hash over and over again. It's allowing the microns that might be smaller to help push them through to the next layer. And you need like a 1.5 to 2 horsepower just because you have to have a certain amount of power actually forcing it through. Like if you just use a garden hose, it's not going to actually like push it through. You need something with a little bit of strength to it. You're going to need a food grade paddle. Like I said, this is like a white paddle, like a white food grade paddle, a stainless steel paddle. That's again just for your canoeing all day. 50 to 100. I put 100. You probably could use a 150 gallon reservoir. That you want to keep chilled, ice cold. Fill that up with ice. Like I said, if you have a cold room, it's nice. Always keep your reservoir water cold so you don't have to add as much ice into your wash water. Ice source, you can use ice machines or pre-purchased ice. You always want to make sure that the ice you're using is RO ice because that allows for, when you have normal tap water, that's going to have minerals and stuff like that, the calcium, all these things in there. So that's going to get into the hash at the end of the day. And when you're pressing, you can tell when you smoke it because it will leave a stain on your rigs and bangers and stuff if not used with clean ice and clean water. And again, if you use an ice machine, always clean it. The dirtiest thing in the world is a gross ice machine. It will be moldy and it gets bad. And so as long as you just kind of keep up with it, it never gets bad. I've seen some pretty gross pink slime grow into an ice machine, and imagine that going into the product you're trying to consume. It's not good. It's not good for the market. It's not good for the customers. And then a reverse osmosis filter. All your water goes through a reverse osmosis. Same thing I said about the minerals and stuff. All of that's going to end up in your hash. So you want to use a reverse osmosis filter to clean all that up. That's the water you're going to use to put in your wash vessel. It's the water you're going to use to clean your bags, everything. And then also, I just remembered this, up here, I'd have one more like little 5-gallon bucket just to keep all your tools cold. All your stainless steel tools, keep them in ice water, helps with the collection process and everything like that. Okay, soaking material. So when you're washing, like I said, you're pulling out this big frozen chunk of hash, or big frozen chunk of flour material. It's crispity and crunchy. Like I said, breaks up, can get into your plants or get into your hash. So what you do is you submerge it underwater, and you want to do it at a high. So like when you do it if you did it at straight 32 degrees, all those frozen flour material would turn into ice balls, and that traps your hash and breaks it up and like crushes your heads. So you want to go in at a little bit warmer just to get it down to a like where it's not thawing it out, but like it's not allowing it to just freeze back up into a ball. You're going to use ice, or you can use ice, stainless steel, just something heavy that you can place over the material to keep it submerged under that water, because it, like I said, material likes to float, so it's all just going to pop to the top. You soak for 15-30 minutes. That's just a good range that you know you're going to have your material thawed out, not frozen chunks. And again, once you're hydrated, keep it cold. Start to finish, it doesn't have to always stay at 32, but never let it go above 40, because when you get it to 40, that's when you start greasing things up. I've had paddles that I didn't know that the root or the stuff was like ready for that, or like wasn't thawed out enough, or was too hot, and I pulled my paddle out and it's just greased up hash on the paddle. So that's wasted product. And it also just means you're not going to have a good product at the end of the day, because all your hash is going to be greasy and not proper. Okay, washing techniques. So there's a few different ways to wash. If you want ultra clean heads, like if you see on the market, some people drop full melt. I know some of these boys back here probably know something about it. Full melt is like the most pure form. It's trichomes, they haven't been pressed, but they are so clean that it's almost as good as dabbing rosin. That you're gonna do light washes, 5-10 minutes. Like when I say light agitation, it's like you're on the canals of Venice. Like it's not like a rapids on a river. It's just a nice paddle, soft, and that will leave you with no contaminants and just pure resin heads at the end. 5-10 minutes, light first wash usually. Then you have 10-minute or high quality rosin. This is like your next level rosin. This isn't like the stuff most dispensaries will have. This is like the good high quality rosin. These will be 10-minute washes. Most people will do 10 minutes, pull first and second wash. That means you'll have a range of like 20 minutes of washing, but it's the first it's the best batch of it. Third and fifth pull, like I said, all this will go to food grade topicals, stuff like that, so you're not wasting any product at the end of the day. It's just, if you want to make the high quality rosin, you don't want to go deeper because it just starts degrading the quality of the rosin at some point. Then, like in a lot of places I've worked in past, sometimes it's just get as much as you can, all of it all at once. Let's get all the rosin we can. I don't care how it looks. I just want to sell a bunch of rosin. 2 to 3 washes, 20 minutes a piece. By an hour, you should have everything off that plant. If you don't, you're either washing too slow, but yeah, after 20 minutes, you should have or after 60 minutes, you should have everything. So there's 45, and I think it's in the next slide, I'll kind of explain all the microns. But this is kind of like your food grade. These are smaller heads, anything with the 45, smaller. 73 is a little better, so that will still make a good quality rosin. 45 through 159, after doing it like this, it's not going to be the prettiest product. It's going to be something sellable, but like it's not going to hold like a high standard in the market. And like I said, higher quantities. You just have so much hash. Fun fact this is from somebody I care about, French cannoli. The ripest trichomes are the first ones knocked off, producing the highest quality resin or rosin. He always used to say it's like shaking a fruit tree. It's like the first shake is going to be the best fruits. It's the ripest, best fruits. He's like, then when you start shaking that tree for an hour, you're going to get most of the fruits off of it. Okay, so micron sizes. So you have wash bags. Wash bags are how you collect all the wet hash that you dry. 220, it's like usually your plant material. It's all green. It has no beneficial value to pressing. 190, I've seen certain strains produce that. You have to be a very good cultivar that produces heavy, big head. Like I said, indica, it was called dessert runs. It produced very large bulbous heads that got into the 190, but there's still a lot of plant and debris in it. 160 is usually where you start collecting where most people would in the market. So like most rosins you'll see will be 73 through 160. The 120 and 90U are considered the like creme de la creme. That's the best heads. That means they're bulbous enough that they were good, not small enough or too large to where there's contaminant in there. 73, again, usually the average market goes for 73 through 159U. And 73 are good. 45 usually produced for food grade, smaller heads, not as much resin in them, so they don't, like if you were to press them compared to a 73, you're gonna get less return on your rosin because there's just not as much oily contents in there. So micron ranges, this is like stuff for the market, like the heady boys are like the top consumers of the state usually try to get stuff 90U through 130 or 90 through 159. That's a lot, like when I was talking about high quality rosins, they'll usually pull that in there because that's where the best juices of the rosin are going to be. Select spec, that's considered premium select spec, but 73 through 159, that's the industry standard. That's where most people are doing stuff. That's where if you go to a store and get it, it's going to always be 73 through 159. And then 45 is just your full spec. It's what your budget product. And again, a lot of the times, some people will take out the 73 and 159 and keep the 45 and the 189, and that's what they turn into food grade for like an edible concentrate or tinctures. and even budget, like we've done budget runs before where we've taken out the 73 and just dropped the 45 through 189, and it's usually a very it sells out super quick, but it's just that's what you're gonna do if you have a little bit of that left over. Freeze drying. So I always mess up this word, so deal with me. Lyophilization. So that's like the process in which hash is drying in a freeze dryer, or anything's drying in a freeze dryer. It's the thing of being put under pressure and having enough heat to turn the frozen material you're working with. It almost sweats off at a certain temperature, and so at low temperatures it's just slowly pulling pressure, and then it's taking all the liquids out. A lot of times, sometimes, like it says, it takes about 12 to 16 hours. Sometimes you'll go through with a card, it's like a stainless steel card. You tap on it, you kind of see, sometimes you'll find ice chunks hidden in the middle that you don't know. What you can do is you can take like a stainless steel sieve, like you'd use in a kitchen for powders. Do that, you can get as much hash out, and then you can take that leftover piece, throw it back in the freeze dryer, so you can kind of continue working, or just also not overly dry the hash that's surrounding it. Again, it could take 12, 16 hours, just depends. Big batch sizes, I've had freeze dryers where I've had to freeze like I'll fill up every single one of these shelves, and it's taken like 16, 17 hours. I've had some where I've only filled up like 4 of these shelves. It's only taken like 10, 11 hours. So just depending on how much you really have in there. The baseline for a freeze dryer is like 30 to 35. I go on the hotter end of mine just because I've always worked in a commercial setting and time is money. So you have to kind of keep it flowing, and when you have it at 35, there's a better chance you're a little left with less ice chunks. But if you go too hot, you'll grease all your hash on your trays, and then you don't have a product to work with. So the final result, it should be, here, actually I have a video. So it's supposed to look kind of powdery. HD quality video right there. It's supposed to look a little powdery. You can kind of still see what I'm talking about with little specks and stuff in there, little dots. That's contaminant that got pushed down through there. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's still going to be good at the end of the day. But the cleaner you have it, the less contaminant, the better product is going to be at the end. But yeah, you're looking for a dry, sandy texture. We call it a day at the beach whenever we're bagging hash. And then you can either, if clean, like I said, can be left to loose trichomes, and then you sell that as live heads. Or then the next step, which would be, there we go, bagging your hash. So you're going to take that sandy-like consistency, and you're going to fill it into your bags. Here, let me do this one real quick. So this is a press bag. It's 25 microns. They sell them from 10 to 15, 25, all the way up to 160, depending on what you're pressing. But most people, because the trichome size is at 73, never want to go above 73, because then you're just going to be pushing out hash through that headspace. I want to play that one more time. There we go. So you're going to scoop this hash in here. You use like a little stainless steel funnel. You're using a spoon, just plopping it in there, kind of shaking the bag a little bit, settling it down, and then you're going to fill it up about three-fourths of the way. You're going to close that up. You're going to kind of push it use your hand heat, wearing gloves, using your heat to kind of press it into a patty, like a harder patty. That harder patty is then going to go into a second 25 micron bag that's just protecting you from slippage. It's protecting you from, and you can even put another 160 bag on outside of that to really help with slippage. But you're using that for slippage. If you just pressed the bag by itself with 1 micron, all the hash would start shooting out of the fold side, and then you're just left with hash in your hash and not or hash in your rosin. And so then the most important thing is the coup d'etat. I keep putting it the wrong thing. Manually? I'm dyslexic. Okay. Why am I working? There you go. Let me try something real quick. There we go. All right, there we go. Okay, so pressing rosin. This is what I do all day long. This is my life. I brought some examples. So you're gonna use parchment paper. Parchment paper is silicone based, so it allows things to be taken off, slide off, it's smooth. You don't want to get certain parchment paper. Certain parchment papers hold chemicals like qualine and other ones that leach into your rosin, again, making your product more subpar. As you see, I say, like, you're gonna make a parchment paper into a pouch the size of the press bag. This is a little bit bigger, but pretty much all you're gonna wanna do is it's like folded into 3 pieces. You fold it in half, fold one side in, one side in. This is gonna be used for your directional fold. So this is gonna allow the rosin, instead of just spreading out on a plate, to shoot out the front, allowing it to not be affected by the heat as much. Because when you leave rosin on a plate, it will heat up and start auto buttering on you. So it starts drying out instantly instead of allowing it to cure through the process like it's supposed to. Then you're left with this guy, auto butter. And so it's a little bit wider. This is supposed to be the size of your press. I use a low temp, so when I use my low temp, this will fit perfectly in there. You want to leave like a tongue, so like same kind of deal. You fold it, and then this is gonna all be there, and then you're just gonna rip these or cut them with scissors so that it's open on this side. And then what you do is just slide that baby in there, and so that allows for all your stuff to flow out onto this tongue, then for later collection, or as it says, you can put it straight into a jar. That's like, again, a pretty industry standard to try and get it into the jar. Gets it away from heat, gets it into a place where you can close it immediately, less oxidation. Most people press at 180, again, industry standard. I press a little bit hotter just to make sure I get everything. Again, some places I've pressed lower temps just to make super fire rosin, but 220 to 200 to 220 allows you just to get everything. So when you're working in a commercial sense, lets you just get all the rosin out that you can. And that also, when it's flowing.
What temperature does it degrade into something else?
So great question, actually. So anywhere from I've pressed upwards of 230 to 235, and it's been fine. It's actually come out pretty cool looking textures. But once you go above 250 to 280 is when it's going to start decarbing, and it'll start sizzling on you. I've had rosin start smoking on the plates from pressing food grade, because when you press food grade, you go with those higher temperatures just to get everything out. But I've had rosin sizzle and pop and shoot out little bubbles at me before, and those burn really bad. So I'm gonna get into a mason jar, and then the next steps, these next few things are textures, kind of consistencies you can produce with heat, with time, just a bunch of different. So fresh press. Fresh press is the rosin when it comes straight off your press. That's going to be, it's gonna look gold, like you kind of see there, it looks like sticky, not like gooey, it looks kind of like shiny, and it's very hard. It's like a rubber or plastic kind of feeling. When people do this, you don't see as much in the market. It is the preservation of terpenes. It's that's going to be the freshest those terpenes are going to be. It's going to have all the terpenes that are present, but not a lot of people drop it because it's hard to work with that consistency, and it's just not a fan favorite of most consumers. Then from cold cure, this is where you have stuff like from fresh press you have cold cure. So when you cold cure, it's a process of not wanting to go too hot. You want to keep it at below room temperature to almost freezing. It takes time, it takes a lot of time. Eventually you'll end up with something that looks like this. So that fresh pressy orange shiny thing turns into a hard cake-like substance. That hard cake-like substance starts rising all these terpenes and also cannabinoids up into this little layer of terpenes. When you have a fat layer of terpenes, you know it's going to be a wet product. It's going to look gooey. You have to whip this. You use a stainless steel tool. It's the most painstaking thing of any for all rosin, because I've had jars lined up on this the size of this table, 20 jars, and I had to sit there. You just have to sit there and grind it down. and eventually over time, after you've broken up all these big chunks, it will turn into a homogenized piece that looks like this. So it goes from really hard with a cold cure layer to something soft like that. Heat cure, this is how I like to make a lot of my hash. And it's anything from 90 to 200 degrees. It's pretty much so it's autonucleating. So kind of like I said on the press, you'll get auto butter, and that's when it's on the heat plate too long and it starts turning into A, or it just looks like crumbly. With enough heat's applied, you can melt, it will auto butter, it will like nucleate instantly, which is the activation of the A like transforming into that hard brick. You can melt some of the A that's in the cold cure, or in the heat, or in the fresh press to cold cure. So when you have that melted THCA, tends to make products wet, like a lot wetter, and a lot easier to honestly whip up. That's partially why I started doing it, because of just too many jars being too hard to whip. You get a faster time. So like I said, if you're a commercial building, you can't have products sitting for a month, 2 months, or even a few weeks. So this allows you to have this product done in a day. You let it go to that anywhere from that temperature. 90 degrees will take a while still, but if you go in the 150 to 200 range, you'll have that ready within the day. You're gonna leave it on a heat mat or an incubator for like an hour, let it get back down to room temp, but still being under some heat. And then once it gets down to room temp, or like the 100 degree mark, then you can take it out and let it chill. And then after it gets down to room temp, is when you whip it up. End product texture is often more preferred. People really like wet batter. Just like, again, industry standard, it's what people like to have. They like it so it's easy to dab up on their tool. And so at most of the time, that's what some processors go with. The majority of processors really do like going with cold cure. I've always liked heat cure. Now this is something I take very seriously. It's a labor of love for me. Both the next two slides are honestly. Oh, hold up. Oh, I'm doing everything wrong. Hold up.
Exciting.
So, jams. So jams are the proper meltdown of the entire thing. So when you go through that cold cure, I said you can melt some of the A. This, you're going to go full meltdown. You're going to turn it into an oil viscousy product. The way you'll be able to tell when it's ready, so say you have a jar, let's say you have a mason jar. You're going to want to fill it up halfway. You're going to melt all that down. Once you have the product turned into an oil state, you're going to see like it starts bubbling on you. Once those bubbles hit halfway of your material you have in the jar is when you usually know you're good. Sometimes you can swirl it around one time just to make sure everything's broken down and really decarbing. And decarbing is just the process of turning THCA into THC and other cannabinoids. But you're gonna wanna make sure it gets to about halfway. Then you're gonna do that at anywhere from 180 to 240 degrees. I do it hotter, just time frame stuff, and also has to do with the decarboxylation of it. But then once you get those bubbles to the halfway point, you're gonna put them on a heat mat at 100 to 110 degrees. It could be overnight. I've had stuff crash on me overnight. If it's high in A, it turns into like a more sugary like substance. Or sometimes I've had stuff take up to 14 days. That's the only time it's ever happened. And that's what this video is that I'll show you. So you'll kind of see diamonds growing in terpene. So you can see those are all, we call them lattices. They're lattices growing on each other, so they just start making little X forms, and they build up. Eventually they'll get to a point where you see, say out here, like 4/5 of the jar, if you did it right, should be filled with diamonds. 1/5 should be filled with a terpene layer, and it's all sitting in this solution still, but the 1/5 should be like, you should see that, and at that point, you're not really gonna grow any more diamonds. You're good to pull it off. Once opened, you wanna be very delicate with the diamonds. You're going to scoop those up, and you don't want to break them because you just took all that time and effort to do it. The picture you see up here is, I'm pretty sure, of that jar, but that's solventless jam, solventless diamonds, pictured by my friend. And so the reason this is good is it offers a different SKU for your company. People like jams, so some people have weird vibes towards it, but It offers a SKU, which in cannabis, SKUs are the most important thing. Offering as much product as you can to everyone in whatever form they want it is how you succeed. It changes the flavor. I've always considered it like cooking. Like, people like eating a fresh apple. Fresh apple's awesome. But when you slice an apple and you put it on a pan and you let it glaze up and do all that, it's a different kind of flavor you're getting from it, and it's truly like changes the texture, changes the flavor, changes how you smell it. And so that's why I've always liked jam, because I looked at it like baking and cooking. It produces different flavors and then, again, like I said, different textures for the consumer.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
When you get to this level of distillation, I guess is the only word that I have for it, does it even matter what flour you started with?
Yes, the flour is the most important thing. It's called fire in, fire out. It's the #1 rule of hash making. If you don't have good flour, your hash isn't going to be good.
Okay.
And again, even like I was saying with the strains, strain is super dependent, but if you don't start with good material, you'll never have good hash to end with. Traditional hash, this is my favorite thing. This is what got me into loving hash, rosin, whatever extraction. This is old school. This is how they would do it back. That's how some of you older gentlemen, ladies, probably smoked hash back in the day.
Afghani hash.
Yep, straight. So that's kind of what I'm producing here, but in a new age lab setting. This involves pressing loose trichomes, that sandy stuff I showed you. You're gonna take turkey bags and put your loose trichomes in there. Then you're gonna use a boiling water bottle, or boiling glass water bottle, and you'll see you start rubbing it on the hash and it starts melting it down. And that hash, like you can see the white right there, starts turning like brownish color. You're gonna do that 3 times over. I said it's to a pancake, but you wanna get it as thin as you possibly can. And then you're gonna rip it off, put it into a ball, and do that 3 times over. When doing hash, you're trying to age it. It's one of the products that, like I said, like you have people who do cold cures and heat tech. When you're doing temple ball, it's just good to make it age and do it in a right humidity, right temperature. Colder is better, takes longer, but it makes a better end product. You tightly wrap, so like you'll literally take the ball. What's up, Bubba? You'll take that ball, you're gonna rub it in your hands like this and just make it into a shiny ball. And then once it's in that form, you're gonna take another turkey bag, wrap it around it, trying to make sure that all sides of the turkey bag are tight around the hash ball. And you just wring it out, make it super tight, and then you wrap zip ties on it, and you wrap rubber bands just to make sure no extra air is gonna get out of there. And so like after a while, like I have hash balls that I've had for 3 years that have off-gassed. And so what they'll do is it will turn into a balloon. All the material will start melting down, greasing up, turning into so it goes from this hardened looking ball, it turns to fresh press to like a more straight, like hard cake, kind of like that cold cure looks cakey. And after a long enough time, it goes from that cake to a gooey kind of texture. But when it goes to gooey, it starts expanding all the off gases, but it's trapped in that airtight little sack. So you'll have like a balloon start blowing up on you. And I've had hash balls just blow up on me. And so then you have to take them out and put them in other jars. And so yeah, then go to the aging process for 2 to 3 weeks, 3 years, 5 years. I've met people who have had a temple ball aging for 10 years. You just let the thing keep going. The better, it's like wine. The longer it goes, the better it is. And my friend would kill me if I didn't go back to this. Use PPE when doing anything with jams. If you ever touch jams, purely for the fact that I've had jars blow up in my face, and that's the most terrifying thing. Like checking your face, making sure you didn't just hurt yourself real bad. So always wear like a face shield or a face mask. Wear gloves, even if it's gardener gloves. Don't touch the hot jars. Like that's just a safety thing, because I've hurt myself personally bad enough with another, but it's still worth it at the end of it. It's cool, and it's not blowing up a BHO lab, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, so just to end it, love hash. This is my favorite way to consume. This is what I strive to put on the market whenever I get a chance. So, and that's who I just did this collab that you're seeing right here with somebody out in OKC, and so I'm stoked for that to come out. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you all for coming out. Follow me, look me up. I post it up all the time. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys got a little education on hash today. Oh yeah, wait, questions and answering. We had questions and answering.
What's in the off gas?
What's in the off gas? CO2. It's CO2.
Nothing you can like.
You can
claim and.
So you can put inert gases, so argon. It doesn't necessarily get rid of it all the way.
Oh, I was just wondering if it was anything like.
Oh no, it's not worth saying. So
the out gas is gonna catch
I know. What's funny, not huffed it, but it's so weird. Whenever I open up a jar of jam, I'll smell it instantly, and it smells like the carbonation of Sprite. Like it's just such an intense, like you're like, whoa, it's like a little zingy. But no, yeah, when you, excuse me,
Sorry.
no problem. When you guys, if you guys ever do cold cure to jam, you'll lose weight in your product because all the CO2 is trapped in the fresh press and the cold cure and all that. So if I had, say, 100 grams, and it's more to carts, honestly, when you fully decarb, let's say I had 100 grams of cold cure, and I went to put it to carts, you'll lose about 6-7 grams of product just based off CO2 being off-gassed in the jar. And you can, like I was saying, you can use inert gases like argon to kind of help with that, kind of like, it's always still gonna happen, but losing that CO2 can kind of degrade your product over time, and so that will help with that.
Yeah, I was just curious if you have a brand preference for washing bags and press bags?
Rosin Evolution.
Okay.
They're just this, again, industry standard. That's who I've always used. There's like Bugatti bags and stuff like that, which is just like a super expensive, like $1,000 set of bags. Nobody's got money for that, and also it's a wash bag. It's microns. Like the only thing you can do differently is making sure that somebody has the correct microns, or it's not like a very. You can get Bubble Man bag, or not Bubble Man. It's like Bubble Dew bags, which are an off-brand, and they rip real easy. So Rosin Evolution has always just been proper.
Okay.
It's never been wrong. It's just always worked. And then same with my press bags. Always use Rosin. I've always used Rosin Evolution. There's companies called Press Club and other brands, but just everybody uses Rosin Evolution. They're killing it in the industry right now. Any more questions? Any questions? Any questions? Sweet, yeah, cool.
Did we come in at the end?
Yeah.
But you know it's fast to use.
Right, yeah.
Rosin Evolution.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, sweet guys. Well, thank you very much. Awesome. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. I think the convention might be ending and we have a huge rainstorm, so everybody get home safe.
Yeah.